because apparently this was a big deal as to whether or not my, setup is actually capable of doing this. Here we're going to go through my settings for Modern Warfare 3. And mind you, I don't change these settings. They stay at this until the next game comes out, and then I basically do the same thing again. I go through and I put them to where they basically are now. If they have different settings, I generally aim for the same logic overall, meaning high graphics settings, turn off things that I don't really think are all that great or all that useful, and then I set it to lock itself as best as it can to 60 FPS. So as we can see, render resolution 2560 by 1440. Stop telling me 2K is not 1440. I know it's 2.5K, but if the TV manufacturers can say 1440 is 2K, then I can say it's 2K, alright? Last time I'm going to say this. Cut it out. I know that, technically speaking, 2K, 1, doesn't even exist, and 2, 1440 is in fact 2.5K. Makes no difference. Stop it. Now, everybody might point out, oh, but you have dynamic resolution turned on. Correct. You need to be very, very, very intensive on your GPU before this kicks in. So, if this ever kicks in, it's probably because I'm doing something else on top of it. As you can see, the estimated VRAM usage is not even close to maxed out. And as you're going to see, I'm not doing anything crazy. Upscaling and sharpening, turned the hell off. Didn't think it was necessary. I'm running at 100%. Render resolution, it looks fine to me. Raytracing, turned off. I don't think Raytracing looks all that particularly great. Yes, it can handle Raytracing. It is an RTX card. I turn it off because I don't really think it's all that great. It's relatively not that necessary. Does it make things look prettier? Yeah, sure. But I don't think it's all that much prettier than just as it is now. I don't need, all this super nice lighting effects. I'm playing Call of Duty. I need to be focused on the enemy in front of me, not how pretty the rocks look with the sun shining on. VRAM target scale, 90%. I want this to, use up as much of the VRAM as it can. Textures, normal. Filtering, normal. I'm not really sure, what normal, high, and low actually mean in terms of the times. I'm sure high means 16. I would venture to guess low is 4, and, normal is probably 8. That would be my assumption. Depth of field, I turn that on. Detail quality, normal. Doesn't need to be much higher. Particle resolution, normal. I like to not have a bunch of things flashing in my face when I'm shooting at the enemy. Things like that are incredibly distracting. I like a little bit of it. I don't like a lot of it. Bullet impacts on. They're pretty to have, but honestly, they're probably not, of any value to me. I could probably turn that off and it would make no difference. Persistent effects. That's, that's that stuff like when a grenade goes off and it, fucks up stuff around it, leaves a texture on it, that sort of thing. I leave it on. Looks pretty. It's not really necessary. Shader quality. Here's where we get to things that severely impact things. High. It makes it look pretty. Now, obviously this would look even prettier with ray tracing, but I think just, high is fine. And as I would go to venture to say that I'm at mid to high settings with this game and most other games. On-demand texture streaming on, but I don't think, I don't think I'm getting any benefit out of this. I think, I have pretty much everything just fine. But, obviously it's going to do normal texture. Shadow quality, normal. And I don't really need it much higher. I'm not really paying attention to the shadows all that much, but they're there. They're pretty. Screen space shadows, high. Once again, like I said, I'm going for a mid to high setting range here. Screen reflections, normal. I don't need them super pretty. I don't need them super complex. Static reflection quality, high. Those I like a little bit more. They're a little less noticeable. Obviously, it's more reflections and shadows, but would they look better with ray tracing? Yes. Objectively, yes. Does it matter? Not really. Tessellation all. I don't really personally see any reason to lower this. I think it looks nicer with it set to all. Volumetric quality, that's a pretty intensive thing there. I set it to high. Deferred physics quality. Water shit, as usual. Very intensive. Things like water and hair are very intense. I have it set to high. But, it obviously, could be set lower if I really wanted to. I could kick something else up as a result. You know, we've got normal for weather grid volumes, water quality, all. I like to have all of that available to me. Could I kick some of these up? Yes. It says the estimated value is well below, where it's, capable of handling. Could I kick it up more? Absolutely. Once again, this is on a 2080, so if this isn't, taxing my 2080 to shit, then clearly dropping this to low is doing nothing. It's irrelevant to even claim that it is. This is fine, and obviously I have room to keep going. Dropping everything to low in Modern Warfare 3, not necessary. It hits 60 FPS. Forgot to leave my microphone turned on to recording this, but here we go. 2K 60 FPS footage from a match of Call of Duty. I mean, I'm not doing great in terms of the gameplay, but at the time I was focusing on highlighting that it looks good and is in fact running at 60 FPS. And, once again, whether or not 2K is 1440, irrelevant information. This is, 57 to 60 FPS. Obviously it's dipping down sometimes, the more intense things get, but generally speaking, it's never dipping below 57. I at no point have ever even really noticed until I actively start paying attention to it. Now, obviously Call of Duty isn't the most intensive, but it is pretty new and it is pretty intensive, and it was a game that was brought up in that video. Baldur's Gate 3 came out last year, debatably. Depends how you want to qualify that. But I'm going to use it as a metric because it's one of the games that I can set very, very high. And also, at, 2K resolution, 1440p, not having that argument still, and, it runs amazingly well. And it's incredibly detailed looking. And there's a lot of AI. And it is definitely a GPU-heavy game. And CPU, for that matter. But doesn't really matter. Let's go through it. Obviously, graphics adapter is my graphics card. We got that aspect ratio, 16 to 9. That's pretty standard. We've got the resolution, as I said. We've got triple buffering on VSync. In other words, it's turned on, capped, 60 FPS. I don't like HDR. I'm pretty sure I have it turned off. I honestly, doesn't really matter. That's just colors. We have all that turned off, no frame generation. Custom settings, i.e. I set it to this manually. I didn't leave it default, so, take that for what you will. High model quality, high shadow quality, high cloud quality, ultra, texture quality. Aniscoping it 4 times, don't really need it any higher than that. It's, not really a setting that matters for a game like this when you're not looking at things that closely. Distance of objects that you can see, high, especially when the camera's very zoomed out like it is in a game like this. That can be very important. Fog quality, high. I like it looking pretty. Animation detail, high. I like that to, look very pretty. Sharpening, irrelevant. I don't really, pay attention to it, so it's off. Anti-aliasing, DLAA. Ambient occlusion, turned on. Depth of field circular, quarter denoise, God rays on, bloom on, subsurface scattering on. I have this set to on just because I have a lot of regular RAM, and while I do have regular hard drives, this is actually installed on a SSD, but I don't know if that really makes any difference. Dynamic crowd set to on. It explicitly says, I can't move over to it, but it says, this will impact performance. And it does. Pretty heavily, actually. The more, computer people you have running around, those AI, the more that performance impact is going to be. So if we go into the game here, you'll notice a lot of AI running around. Things are very pretty. That's 60 FPS. Let's move the camera a little bit. Let's check out what's going on over here. Oh, 55 FPS, because we've now got very distant AI walking around, but we got a lot of them. Hell of a lot of them. At very, very high graphic settings. We can see things all the way past that main gate into Baldur's Gate. Now, there's no AI out that far. I mean, the bridge pretty much is the cutoff point, as we can see, but we can see that it is rendering AI even in buildings right now who are walking in and out of those buildings. I could probably guess that there might be about, let's say maybe 70, 80 different, individual AI that it's handling right now, and it's doing a damn good job of it. It's doing an impressively good job of it. And here we have Elden Ring. As you can see, I'd say these are high rather than medium-high settings. But we got high texture quality, high anti-aliasing, high SSAO, high depth of field, motion blur off. No idea why anyone would ever turn that one on, but I have it set to off, so it doesn't matter. Shadow quality, medium. I really would rather the shadows be a little shittier, but that's only if I can get the graphics a little higher. High lighting, high effects, medium volumetric, which is your fogs and your everythings like that. High reflections, high water, high, shaders, generally speaking, high global illumination, high grass quality. And as you can see, auto detect off, ray tracing off, resolution 2K. Not having that discussion, 1440 and 2K might as well be the same. And as you can see, at 60 FPS, that's running fine. Here's a little bit more footage of Elden Ring with some combat and everything going on, but as you can see, 60 FPS, and, we got a decent amount going on here. We got some enemies, walking around. We got some flashy, effects going down, but that's 60 FPS, high settings 2K. Since this has become such a big deal, and Cyberpunk keeps getting mentioned explicitly, oh, it can't run at 60? Well, for starters, there it is, set to windowed borderless, 2K, once again, 1440 and 2K, basically synonymous when it comes to the, the everyman. We're not getting into this technicality, still, VSync, 60 FPS, I want it locked to 60, I don't want it going over 60, maximum cap. And once again, 2K. Now, I'm not going to crank it to 4K, like I said, I'm not going to, but once again, custom preset, resolution scaling, off. I just want it 2K exactly as it is. Don't do anything weird to it. DLSS, off. Ray tracing, off. Texture quality, medium. Crowd density, medium. Field of view, 100. I like it cranked up. Film grain, it's ugly. I don't like it on. Chromatic, it's ugly. I don't like it on. Depth of field, I do like it on. Lens flare, can sometimes be nice, so I leave it on. Motion blur, I turn it off. I don't want my textures looking fuck ugly while I'm turning my camera. I leave it completely off and everything. Contact shadows, geometry, yada yada, on. Here's that 16 versus 8 argument. If I turn it to 16, the impact is heavy. If I leave it at 8 or 4, it's not so bad. See medium, 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 low. I don't, distant shadows are kind of irrelevant. They're far away. I don't need them to be super pretty at a distance. I'm not paying attention to what's 3,000 feet in front of me. I'm paying attention to what isn't, far away, i.e. what's right in front of my face. Medium, 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 medium. High on color precision. I like colors to be where they're supposed to be. Medium all across the board. Because I promised it, here's that Cyberpunk running at 2K, and I'm going to show some 4K footage in a moment, but this is in a pretty intensive area. We've got some reflections going on the wet roads, we've got a lot of the AI going around, we've got some nice, very pretty visuals going around, exactly what you'd expect, and this is effectively, may as well be called 2K 60 FPS, medium to high settings. And I say that because, we're not getting exactly 60, but 57, 58, that's basically 60. So let's just switch over here to some 4K footage. What is it that consoles push for? Oh yeah, 4K 30. This is what you get on a PS5 or an Xbox, this is what you're going to get, is 4K 30. Come on. In a very intensive location like this, you're going to get 4K 30. So, is it 4K 60 in Cyberpunk cranked up? No. But I never claimed Cyberpunk was hitting, 4K 60 on an RTX 2080. I claimed that it was handling 2K, 60. I mean, it basically is. But, you know, this is 4K 30, which I would argue is not all that bad. Dropping down to, 29 or 28 when things get super demanding, but this is 4K 30. This is playable. This is not half bad. 4K 30. This is console gaming. This is just 4K 30 console gaming. Like, come on, this ain't that bad.